After the long drive to and from Key West, we now find ourselves in a much more populated situation, you could say, as we enter the Miami-Dade Fort Lauderdale conurbation, the sprawliest of sprawls as far as I'm concerned. And we find ourselves here on Old Cutler Road, which we follow. This follows mainly right along the coast from Homestead almost to downtown Miami. And although it may not look it, we're actually pretty close to the edge here. This road was in fact one of the pleasant surprises of the trip. As it winds its zigzaggy way towards Miami, you actually go through a rather pleasing variety of different types of neighborhoods. You have some richer neighborhoods, you have some less rich neighborhoods, you've got some commercial areas, and there was always some variety to keep you interested along this way. It's crazy to say this because I'm not generally a fan of driving in the middle of large urban areas, but this was one of my favorite drives of this trip. I was also quite relieved that even in the middle of the day, as I was passing through here, there wasn't all that much heavy traffic. I mean, there was some stop and go here and there, but by and large, this was actually a really pleasant area to drive through. Once you get to downtown Miami, however, well, then it becomes a little bit less pleasant. this leg of the trip, you're going to notice a really familiar name occurring over and over again, and that is Florida Highway A1A. This road, otherwise known as the Jimmy Buffett Memorial Highway, runs all the way from Key West in the south to the Georgia border in the north. Needless to say, that means I drove practically every mile of this highway in the course of this trip. Indeed, for most of the rest of this trip, A1A is the road on the edge. Now, of course, that's not always the case. There are dead ends, of course. There are residential neighborhoods that I don't normally drive through. And, of course, there's the odd detour, such as the one in Palm Beach that you're seeing elsewhere in this video. One thing that I also found pretty interesting is that it usually isn't billed as A1A. It's often billed as, South Ocean Avenue, North Ocean Avenue, Fort Lauderdale Beach Boulevard. There's a lot of different names that this road has, and that can make it a little bit hard to know. Am I on A1A? Am I not on A1A? Good chance that if you're right on the beach, and we are for most of the rest of this trip, that you're on A1A. It can be confusing when the road has 2 or 3 other names. As far as the captioning purposes of this video, I don't always notate that it's the Jimmy Buffett Memorial Highway. There's only so much room on the screen. But rest assured that it is, and you can think of Jimmy Buffett for the whole rest of this trip. So, as you can see, things are kind of a mess here. I'm in Palm Beach, and apparently Trump is in town, so you are not allowed to drive on A1A north past Mar-a-Lago. I was hoping to be able to do that, but nope. Apparently he's there. Doing something horrible, no doubt. So instead I am diverted through downtown, and some of the streets are shut off down here as well. I'm not sure if this is entirely because of construction. It could be. Or if they're trying to make a pathway for a motorcade. I'm thinking that's probably more likely. Thanks, Obama.